Good afternoon from Los Angeles, and welcome to Stock Market Today, sponsored by Interactive Brokers. On today's show, we're going to be taking a look at Paycom, Copart, as well as KLA, which gaps down today. But first, we want to take a look at the major indexes. It's Alyssa Corum here today. I'm joined by Ken Shreve. And Ken, we saw relatively mild losses across the board today. The NASDAQ finishing down about 0.25% in the S&P 500, and Dow down about 0.2% each. So down, but a constructive session, you would say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were watching some of these leading chip equipment stocks in pre-market trading, many of them down 3–4%. There was a bearish analyst note that slapped sell ratings on Applied Materials, Lam Research, and also KLA. And while these stocks ended sharply lower, you can see the NASDAQ ended with a loss of just 0.2%. So we've been talking about a resilient stock market, a stock market that's been able to overcome some daunting headlines in recent weeks. And, this market still looks good. And I'm writing the big picture today, and we're still going to just talk about a market technicals that still look pretty good here.
Yeah, and we saw a little bit of a wild session, I guess, just a wider range than we had been seeing. And it's good to see an inside day here.
Yeah, exactly. So Wednesday, we had a moderate decline for the NASDAQ. It did amount to a mild distribution day, but so it was kind of a big intraday swing for the NASDAQ on Wednesday. But today, like you mentioned, a kind of a tight intraday range. And you can see on the chart here, still holding that 10-day moving average comfortably above the 50-day. So this market still is looking pretty good from a technical perspective.
Yep, that's right. And now let's take a look at a few individual names, starting off with Paycom Software. Added a little bit more to a strong gain on Wednesday. We had bullish commentary from RBC Capital, which the stock really had a big boost on Wednesday. Followed up on that again today, Ken, and it is now in buy range here.
Yeah, so this is a stock, it's almost an example of what straight up off the bottom looks like. And some of our IBD workshops, we talk about how straight up off the bottom can be a negative. You can see multiple days in a row as the stock was forming the right side of a base here. But very bullish percentage gain for Paycom Wednesday. You mentioned the upgrade from RBC Capital. And, the stock is just kind of holding near that buy point. But again, after so many gains here, I mean, do you buy the stock here? Technically, it's still in a buy range, but
maybe we see a handle for him?
Yeah, maybe you just kind of wait for a little mild pullback here and see what the broad market is going to do. But I'm always a little cautious when a stock is up multiple days in a row, like Paycom. But still, the recovery in software stocks has been pretty impressive in recent weeks. A lot of people thinking that this leading sector in the market for quite some time was going to kind of roll over and be left for dead, but a lot of these stocks have bounced right back.
Yeah, that's right. So we do have the improving technical picture, and the fundamentals remain very strong. With Paycom in particular, double-digit growth expected for the bottom line for the next 2 years or so.
Yeah, a lot of enterprise software stocks, security software stocks. Many of these stocks do sell at high multiples, but you have to remember they also have pretty bullish growth rates too. So sometimes a high PE ratio can be justified, and I think that applies to many software stocks at this point.
Yeah, that's right. And let's move on and take a look at Copart, because that stock did end up finishing the day around 3.5% higher, but it came well off of its intraday high, Ken, but still finishing with a gain of, like I said, over 3.5% on a quarterly earnings report that showed continued double-digit growth.
Yeah, so a 3.5% gain is nothing to scoff at. However, the stock did gap up, and you can see it closed near its session low. So this is a stock that initially broke out over a 79.84 buy point. This is a leaderboard stock. After it broke out, it found support at its 50-day moving average.
And that breakout came on the last earnings.
Exactly. So support at the 50-day moving average after the breakout, and it was probably a little extended off the 50-day line headed into earnings. Another quarter of double-digit earnings and sales growth for Copart. They're not in a sexy business. They do, used vehicle auctions, but this is a company that knows how to make money. And again, another quarter of double-digit earnings and sales. And disappointing to see the stock close near its session low, but still up more than 3% on the day.
Yeah, that's right. So in terms of how investors would handle a move like this, because we have said quite a bit that we like looking at these earnings moves. So then to see it finish in the lower half of the trading range for the day, you know, not as good as we like to see some of these, but how would you handle this trade?
Well, at this point, I mean, again, headed into earnings, the stock was probably a little bit extended, not only from the latest base breakout over 79.84, but also after a bounce off the 50-day moving average. So at this point, if you're thinking about buying it, just kind of wait and see how the stock trades. I mean, it could test the 50-day moving average again, but you know, maybe just kind of wait for a new base to form here.
All right, well, we'll definitely keep tabs on that one. And as Ken mentioned, we did see some bearish analyst commentary for some chip equipment makers today, including KLA. Ticker there is KLAC, with that stock finishing the day down about 7% here, gapping down below a key support level after what has been a pretty fantastic multi-month run for the stock.
Yeah, I mean, KLA's last breakout was all the way back in July. So the three downgrades were mentioned at the top of the show: Applied Materials, Lam Research, and KLA. KLA has made the strongest move post-breakout. Again, the latest breakout here was all the way back in July. But investors who were lucky enough to buy at that breakout in July got an unequivocal sell signal today. This is just a decisive break of the 50-day moving average in heavy volume. There are times to sell stocks, and you know, you had a nice gain in KLA. Gave some of it back today, but you know, for those who bought at the last buy point, definitely a sell signal today.
Yeah, that's right. And you bring up a really good point about this being a sell signal, because I think this is where it's really key, where that investing psychology comes into play, because this run, now the stock, it's still up about 30% from the buy point. So investors might be making excuses. Well, you know, I'm still sitting on a pretty good gain, but it's really good to not get too greedy, because it could take a while before this stock presents another new buying opportunity. It could be basing here for a while.
Exactly. I mean, when you get a downside move like KLA today and just a bearish break of the 50-day moving average, probably means the stock is ready to base for several weeks. And again, you know, buying at the last breakout, that was probably around 120, 125. I mean, you're still sitting on a pretty healthy gain, but you know, following sell rules is important in the stock market, and anytime a stock after a lengthy uptrend breaks support like this, it's just a good classic sell signal to follow.
That's right, because if you take some money off of the table here, you can put it to work somewhere else instead of sitting through who knows how long of a choppy period.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in a confirmed uptrend. We mentioned pretty bullish market technical still, and still stocks breaking out. So, you know, take profits here and put it into something new and dynamic that's working.
Yeah, that's right. Sounds like a plan. Okay, everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. Just two quick announcements before we go. We want to let you know that we do have a new episode of our Investing with IBD podcast out now. Make sure you go check that out. Arusha this week was able to chat with trader Anne-Marie Bain, so you definitely don't want to miss that. You can go to investors.com/podcast now to take a listen. And if you have not yet registered for our last ever Can Slim Masters program, now is the chance to do so. Make those travel arrangements to get out here to Southern California in a couple of weeks' time, the weekend of December 14th and 15th. You can get all the details on that at investors.com/masters for the Can Slim Masters program. And Ken, why don't you say a few words about the event?
Well, so looking forward to hearing Scott O'Neill talk. He's going to kick things off on Saturday. Mike Webster is going to have a great presentation on you know, the best model book stocks. Charles Harris talking about investor psychology, and of course our own Justin Nielsen and Chris Gessel going to be taking a look at the 2019 in review. So it's going to be 2 full days of just great investing information, and hope to see you there.
Yeah, fantastic lineup. We really want to see you there, so make sure you sign up. All right, everyone, thank you so very much for watching, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow to cap off the week.